beginner's piano lesson here at LearnPianoLive.com. This is a beginner's lesson, so the assumption is you know nothing about piano. You don't know the letters, you don't know how to read music, you don't know any chords. If that's you, you're in the right place. We're starting at the very basics. So really the keys to this lesson is to ask a whole lot of questions. This is you and me, so you got to ask whatever questions you have so that I, as your teacher, can help you out and know what you need. Now, if you are an absolute beginner, you might want to check out the Absolute Beginner's Lesson Pack in the video store, because that'll kind of walk you through some of the very basics that most beginning piano students have. It's free. Just go check it out in the video store. And there's a couple other things too that I want to talk to you about before this countdown clock hits 0. All right, first and most important, ask a lot of questions. The way that you're going to do that is there's a couple different ways. You can jump in the chat room and talk with the other students who are logged in at the same time. I'll be watching the chat room too. You ask your questions there, or if it's a question that's just for me, a question about the lesson, especially if you know it's one that's going to fit best at the question and answer time at the end, then you can just put your name and your question in the box below this video, click submit, and then I will get that. Now, if you're already in the archives, if you're watching this not live, but you're watching this in the archives, then make sure at the end of the lesson you click on the survey button. You don't have to fill out the entire survey. If you want to, I mean, I'd love your feedback, but really the best part of that is that you can put your question in there, and then when you click submit, then I will get all of your questions. I'll make sure that you get them answered, whether you're in the archives or you're live. Right next to this video, there should be a PDF button and an MP3 button. Now, you don't really need those till after the lesson because I'm going to be showing you on screen the PDF and showing you how to use it. I'll play the MP3 during the lesson too, so you know at the end of the lesson how you're going to use that. Some people, though, like to print out the PDF ahead of time, so as I'm making notes on my version, they can make the same notes on their version, but it works either way. All right, this is perhaps the most important part. You need to leave the lesson when you feel like you're sufficiently challenged. So, I'm teaching these lessons, 12 to 15 lessons a month. Normally, in traditional lessons, you're getting like a lesson every other week or so. So this is just way too much for you to take in. So, the goal is for you to get some little nugget of something that you can really practice on, really work on. Once you feel like you have that, then you really don't need anything else from me. Go practice. That's where this stuff is really going to happen. You're not going to get through this lesson and be able to play something really well. You're going to get through this lesson and have the information that you need to practice more effectively. That's really the goal here. So don't feel bad about taking off early. If you feel like halfway through the lesson you got as much as you can take in at that time, then go practice that thing, and then come back whenever you've got that thing down, or you're bored with it, or you just want to check out the next topic. Don't forget also that you've got the archives too. So if you want to see one little thing, just repeat it over and over and over. Just give me, hopefully within 24 hours after the lesson, this thing will be up in the archives, so you can just go back and watch it over and over and over and over and just get that little segment down. All right, so today's lesson is focused on a topic that honestly I personally avoided for a long time. Out of the 8 sectors of music that exist, this one is the one that's on technique. So this has to do with positioning your body in such a way that you can more effectively play through the music. So it doesn't really matter a whole lot when you're no good how, what fingers you use and what position you use to make those notes happen. But as it turns out, as you get better and better and better, you needed to have been preparing yourself to get faster and faster and faster. If you're playing all of your notes with just one finger, as it turns out, that's going to be really slow once you get fast. So today's lesson, stick with me in case you feel like, oh, this is boring stuff. I'd rather not do it that way. It's less comfortable. Trust me, you're going to wish you'd paid attention. All right, let's go. All right, welcome back, everybody. Here we go. Let's jump in. I don't think there are any major announcements except that we are using the higher resolution stream now. So let me know on your end what it looks like. I tested it all on my end, but sometimes when I test it, it turns out better than when you all test it out. So if you're whatever your device you're on, let me know that. That's going to be a huge part. If you're on a phone and you're getting poor resolution or whatever, or if the streaming service isn't giving you the right stream extreme for your type of device or whatever. Let me know all of that, but we should be using our higher resolution now. So maybe great, maybe terrible. We'll find out. Whatever the case, let's jump in and play through some of this stuff. Your play along this week is not an actual play along. You open that up and it's going to be the depressing message with my voice in it that says, I'm sorry, but there is no play along for you. Jamie will explain why in the lesson, and that might not actually be my voice. I don't remember. Anyway, there's nothing there because today, with the technique junk that we're doing, it's going to be all about the metronome. So we'll get into how to use the metronome in a little bit. But there's two things that we're going to work on this week. There's 5-finger patterns and there's scales. Now, either one of these would be plenty to work on for months. In fact, if you're in Clopple Academy level, like 1 through 5 even, all of that stuff in that technique section, you'll notice you're only doing like 3, 4, 5 scales at a time. And this is all of the scales just dropped in your lap. So my recommendation to you, if you're not in Clopple Academy, and you haven't done scales before, is pick 1 or 2 of these and see how it goes. And then if it seems to be going really slowly, then congratulations, you're a normal human being. And then we just take on the next little chunk once that's either too boring to continue or too comfortable to be a challenge. So let's take a look here. The first one that we have is a C major 5-finger pattern. So there's 5 notes. You got 5 fingers, hopefully. Some of you, I know, don't. And so then you just practice whatever number of fingers you have. So if you have if you have 3 fingers, then obviously you'll just do the first 3 notes of that. But anyway, most of you have 5 fingers, so match the number of fingers to the number of notes that you want to use here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The goal is to go 1 finger per note. Usually, if you have all 5 fingers, these last 2 right here are the least cooperative. Interestingly enough, the ring finger is the least cooperative in most cases, so the pinky will come along before the ring finger comes along. But in whatever case, that's the C major 5-finger pattern. You're going to play a C, then a D, then an E, then an F, then a G, then an F, then an E, then a D, then a C. Long term, the goal is that you will get used to the 5-finger pattern in the key of C, and that will be something significant for the key of C. So when we're in the key of C, when you have a song that's in the key of C, then you will be able to play that thing right there in control, faster and faster and faster. Now everybody can, not everybody, sorry, most people after they've practiced for a little while can do that, but that's not really in control so much. So you want to make sure that you're playing when you play with your metronome, you're playing with the top speed, that you're still in control, that your fingers aren't just flying on their own. The slower you go, the more you'll tell whether you're in control or not, because if you're not in control, you'll end up with stuff like this. Or stuff like that, where you get like the rhythms aren't exactly right on, which is why why the metronome is so important. And again, we'll be getting to that very soon. So that's the C major 5-finger pattern. Just trying to do that with all even speeds, even without a metronome, just back and forth, being in charge of every single finger that you use. And then same thing on the left hand by itself, and then eventually together. When you practice together, again, the goal is not speed, the goal is control. You want both notes to come out exactly right together. This is wrong, because you can kind of hear both notes staggered a little bit. Ba-da, ba-da, da-da, 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 da-da. You want them to sound like it's just one note as much as possible, and that is the control that we're looking for. And again, you can see I'm not practicing this thing fast at all. This is just really trying to make sure that each one is in control. And again, the slower you go, the more you'll be able to tell. There we go. Good. Good. Not as good. Not as good. Not as good. Better. better. Good. So you're looking for those two notes to happen exactly at the same time if you're practicing both hands. Again, that might be 2, 3, 4 weeks down the road, depending on how much practice time you have. Just trying to be in control of each of those things. And this is why I, and as the vast majority of musicians, hate practicing technique stuff, is because it sounds terrible. It doesn't sound like a thing. That doesn't sound like a thing at all. That's just crazy, boring to listen to. Doesn't sound like music, but you're practicing being in control of each of your fingers. That's the whole point of all of this stuff today and tomorrow and in the advanced lesson on Wednesday. So that is all of your 5-finger patterns for all 12 major 5-finger patterns. So here you got one for this starts on C, one starts on D flat, one starts on D, one starts on E flat, and so you've got all of that stuff to work on. If you have already been through the absolute beginner's pack and you feel really comfortable with that and you're like, all right, moving on to the next thing, these are the full scales next. And I'm going to show you the fingering to use for this because the fingering will be important. All the fingering happens in groups, in sets of 3 and 4. That would be 3 and 4 fingers. So 3 fingers and then 4 fingers and then 3 fingers and then 4 fingers. So you would use a set of 3 fingers for those notes and then a set of 4 fingers for those notes. And then you would just start back over again. So C and D and E would be 1, 2, 3 fingers. And then F would be this set of fingers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're back to a C, and you can start back over again with that set of 3. So it'd go a set of 3, a set of 4, a set of 3, a set of 4, a set of 3, a set of 4, and so on and so forth. So that is what we're going for. All of the orange ones follow that pattern. The other ones I wouldn't really worry about. This is a beginner's lesson, so if you want to get into some of the more difficult ones, show up tomorrow for the intermediate or Wednesday for the advanced lesson. But for right now, I'd stick with C and D and E and G and A and B. And you'll notice if you're in Clopple Academy level, I believe 3, or it might be 4, is the when you go through those 3 or 4 levels, you're doing all of these scales and you're not even venturing into the D flats and the G flats and all that stuff. It's just all ones that follow that same pattern of a set of 3 and a set of 4. A little behind the scenes look into the future. All of them follow a set of 3 and a set of 4, but sometimes they start on weird fingers. So sometimes you'll start on like the 2 in a set of 3, or you'll start on the 3 in a set of 4, or sometimes you'll start on the in the key of D or B flat. You'll start on the 4 in obviously a group of 4, and then go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then start back over again on a set of 4. If that didn't make any sense, that's fine. I probably shouldn't have even said that in a beginner's lesson, but all the ones that are orange here, you're gonna have a set of 3 for the 3 fingers, and then a set of 4 for the 4 fingers. And so you can just practice those up and down. And then your left hand's going to be the same. It's just going to be the opposite. So you're going to, in the key of C, you'd have a set of 3 going down, and then a set of 4, and then a set of 3. So set of 3, set of 4, set of 3, set of 4, set of 3. So it's easiest to practice if you're going to do hands together for this. It's easiest to practice them starting in the middle and going out because your switching times will be the same. They'll be lined up. So a set of 3, 2, 3, and then both thumbs tuck under for your set of 4. It sounds really difficult to do, but if you don't have any sound on it, it looks pretty easy comparatively. The same fingers are crossing over all the time. So anyway, that's your full scale. Now let's talk metronomes. The metronome app that I use is this guy right here. It's in the middle, right there. It just says metronome on it. And when you open it up, it looks like that right there. This is the same as any other metronome. I think I paid like $1.99 for this thing. So it's one of the more expensive metronomes out there. The vast majority of them are free because it's a stupid little app that just does counting for you. So you'll turn it on, you'll be able to set the number at the bottom. In my case, it's right there, that 120 that's down there at the bottom. You can see that. So then you can change that number. 120 is actually very, very fast for where we're going to start out this stuff. 120 would sound like this. That's the pace. So that would be something like on the 5-finger patterns. That's really fast. I'd recommend you start out like in the 60 to 80 range. So like this is 77. And again, the goal is control. You want each one of your notes. It helps if you're not talking and playing at the same time. You want each one of your notes to happen exactly at the same time as the click, as if it was just one sound. Like if every time you press the note, the click came out, and the note both simultaneously. You want it to sound like just one unified sound as opposed to Now, I did the same number of notes as there were clicks, but they weren't lined up. Some of them were a little bit early, some of them were a little bit late. So you want each of those notes to be exactly right on. So you can maybe see why this is going to take a while for you to line up these, the right hand and then the left hand, and then both hands together before you ever touch a full major scale there. There's plenty of work to be done just in being in control, paying attention to the time, and making sure those line up beautifully. Usually, the slower you go, the harder it is to play along with the metronome. So honestly, somewhere in the 100, even up to 120, that beginning time that I started with, that's going to feel like the easiest speed to practice along with because the distance between the beats is smaller. So when you mess up on a beat, it's proportionately closer to the beat. It doesn't sound as far off. For example, if you go to, if I put this at something crazy low, I put this at 20. This is going to be 20 beats per minute, and it sounds like. It's going to be very difficult to. So you can hear, even though as a percentage of the distance between the beats, I'm actually very close to the beat because there's so much distance between the beats. You can hear a huge difference between where I land and then just a split second later where the actual beat comes in. So the slower you go, the harder it's the harder it's going to be to sound good. You'll probably be just about the same level of playing as if you were playing in a higher speed, but you won't notice it at the higher speed. So I always tell my students to practice it super, super, super slow. Because you bring it to me, you play at 150, and if you sound like, this is 150 here. That sounds to most people about right, and that sounds way off to me because each one of the beats was just a split second too early, which means that if we slowed that down, that'd be way, way early when we put a greater distance between the beats. That's my best job of explaining why it's harder when it's slower, but maybe that didn't work for you. Just trust me. If you practice it slower, you'll be hearing what I'm hearing when you practice it at faster speeds, which is why on Kloppel Academy, all the speeds are in the 70 to 80 range. We never, even in the highest levels, we never really get up to a blazing speed. Even when we're practicing at, the 200 beats per minute and stuff, we always start out at, show me 60. Can you do 60? Cool. Now show me 150. All right, you can do 150. And then you finally get up to the 200 plus range. But anyway, metronomes, they're going to be huge, but first you just want to get your 5-finger patterns down and then get your scales down after that, and the metronome after that, after you get a 5-finger pattern. You don't have to get all the way to scales before you throw in the metronome. But that will tell you what I'm going to hear when you're playing for all your video submissions and stuff like that. So anyway, there we go. Let's get to the question and answer time. And it looks like I am logged out. There we go. And it looks like there are no questions. So that's odd. So either nobody has questions or for some reason they are not registering in the system. If you are in the live lesson and you have a question, I don't have it here. So email me that and I will, maybe if no one emails me any questions, then we just had no questions today. Cool, everything made sense. And if we did, then let me know, because that means that in future lessons I won't be getting them, that something is wrong. So either something's terribly wrong, or you're already all practicing, or you all already fell asleep because this was just crazy boring. Whatever the case, good luck, have fun.